Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV on Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T Channel 99, where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us live on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford and live to tape on Channel 10 on Orion Neighborhood Television in Lake Orion and Orion Township. You can also find us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on 88.1 The Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. Find us online on our Facebook pages at Civic Center TV 15 and at Lakes FM, on our website at civiccentertv.com and on My Michigan TV or MyMy at mymytv.com, where you can also learn more about downloading their free MyMyTV apps for your smartphones and your smart TV. All that information is on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. We can also find all of our full programs and each individual interview on demand as well. Then let's head over to our coronavirus page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have links to the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 from reliable expert resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division, so that you can stay up to date on everything that you need to know about the spread of COVID-19 and precautionary tactics that you may need to employ in your daily life, as well as information on vaccination and booster shots should you be in need of either. Also on our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the state of Michigan in order to keep you updated on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across the Great Lakes state. Our top story today from Bridge, Michigan is their coronavirus tracker, as positivity rate has hit 10% and hospitalizations are inching upward. The percent of positive coronavirus tests in Michigan was at 10% over the past week, up from 8% in the previous week period. Michigan has the 5th highest positive rate in the country, behind Florida at 10.9%, Nevada at 10.8%, Hawaii at 10.4%, and Utah at 10.4%. That is all according to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The rising rates have led to more cases and an increase in COVID-19 hospitalizations, with 729 in Michigan on Monday, up from 714 on Friday and 624 a week ago. At the peak of the Omicron wave, there were 5,009 COVID-19 patients being treated statewide. That was as of January 10th. Last fall, when weekly positive test rates first hit 10%, there were more than 1,800 COVID-19 patients statewide, far more than there are now being treated, well over 1,000 more, in fact. That's an indication of the reduced severity of the Omicron variant and the subvariants it has spawned. More thorough data will be available on Wednesday when Michigan releases weekly tallies on cases and deaths. That information on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. You click on the article, you click on the thumbnail picture that says COVID-19 updates, and it'll take you to that full article with supporting materials from Bridge, Michigan. Also making headlines on our coronavirus page from the Detroit News, Governor Whitmer says she will, quote, fight like hell, end closed quote, for abortion access in Michigan after the Supreme Court leak last night. Governor Whitmer said her work challenging Michigan's 1931 ban on abortion in state court, quote, is more important than ever, and end quote, after a leaked draft opinion showed the U.S. Supreme Court initially has voted to overturn the landmark Roe versus Wade decision. Quote, I'll fight like hell to protect abortion access in Michigan, end close quote, the Democratic governor tweeted late on Monday in response to the news. A draft majority opinion circulated within the court in February and obtained by Politico last night said the 1972 ruling Roe versus Wade, which guaranteed women constitutional protections for abortion rights, was, quote, egregiously wrong from the start, end closed quote, as written by Justice Samuel Alito. Quote, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overturned, Justice Alito said in the draft opinion. Continuing on, quote, it is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives, end closed quote. It's unclear whether changes have since been made to the draft or if justices have since changed their votes. The High Court's opinions are not official or final until they are published. If Roe is overturned, experts have said Michigan likely will revert back to a 1931 law known as Act 328 that makes abortion a felony in the state with no exceptions for rape or incest. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel repeatedly has said she would not enforce the law, arguing that doing so, quote, would drive women back to back alleys again, end closed quote. The Attorney General continued on by saying, quote, I will never prosecute a woman or her doctor for making the difficult decision to terminate a pregnancy. end close quote, said Nessel in 2019, suggesting that doing so would, quote, be sending women to be butchered, end closed quote. Oakland County Prosecutor Carrie McDonald on Monday issued a similar promise, saying, quote, if Roe versus Wade is overturned, I will do everything in my power to protect the over 500,000 women in Oakland County and their right to make choices over their own bodies, end closed quote. Genevieve Martin, a legislative director for Right to Life Michigan, said she was cautiously optimistic about the High Court's draft ruling on Monday. She acknowledged things may have changed since it was written, but she considered what she had seen to be a win, saying, quote, if ultimately Roe is overturned, we will be celebrating tremendously. Those are unborn lives in Michigan and everywhere that will be saved, end closed quote. Democratic lawmakers slammed the draft as portending, quote, devastating, and closed quote, effects for women in Michigan and across the country. Quote, this is outrageous, and closed quote, tweeted U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow, a Democrat from Lansing. Stabenow continued on by saying, quote, if tonight's news is true, Michigan's 1931 state law banning abortion would snap back into effect, making any abortion illegal in our state, even if the mom will die or if she was raped by a family member. No exceptions, end close quote. My apologies. That quote is from U.S. Representative Elissa Slotkin, also a Democrat. Quote, my poor mother is turning over in her grave. The House has already voted to codify Roe. Let all senators be on record on this one in an up or down vote, and closed quote. Representative Lisa McLean, a Republican from Bruce Township, tweeted that overturning Roe would, quote, save millions of innocent unborn babies. I pray the Supreme Court makes it official and formally overturns this attack on the unborn, end closed quote. Republican U.S. Representative Bill Huizenga, a Republican from Holland, said, if true, the news is, quote, the correct decision, end closed quote. He continued on by saying, quote, this unprecedented leak of a draft ruling is an effort to overtly inject politics into the court itself. This individual should not be celebrated. They should be held accountable for their egregious breach, end closed quote. A ballot initiative to establish abortion rights in the Michigan Constitution is underway, which U.S. Representative Andy Levin, a Democrat from Bloomfield Township, referred to on Monday, saying, quote, as drafted, this is an egregious worst-case scenario. Levin tweeted, continue on, I hope it serves to wake folks up to what's at stake. Michigan, it's time to get, quote, hashtag reproductive freedom for all and on the ballot, end closed quote. Justice Alito's opinion would overturn a ruling by the Fifth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, which blocked the Mississippi law that bans nearly all abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy. The Circuit Court had ruled that both precedent in Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey prohibited states from banning abortions before fetal viability. But Alito in his draft concludes, quote, the Constitution does not prohibit the citizens of each state from regulating and prohibiting abortion, end closed quote. The justices heard arguments in the case in December, and a final decision is expected in the next 2 months. Lastly, making headlines on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from the Detroit Free Press for those looking to celebrate later on this week. Good news for you. Cinco de Mayo's parade in Southwest Detroit will be back after 2 years off. Floats, bands atop trucks draped in Mexican flags, and dozens of dancers paraded 2 miles down West Verner Highway for Sunday's Cinco de Mayo celebration. The 57th annual parade and festival were hosted by the Mexican Patriotic Committee of Metropolitan Detroit with help from the Southwest Detroit Business Association. The goal was to throw the same safe, family-friendly events of years past, said organizer Raymond Lozano, executive director of the Mexican Town Community Development Corporation and chair of the Mexican Patriotic Committee. In Detroit, the Cinco de Mayo parade has come to symbolize the start of spring. Quote, if you're ever around this community, you know that there's a lot of hugging, a thing that happens with the Latin community. And so not being able to do so safely for 2 years has created a lot of frustration, Lozano said, continuing on. Everybody's eager to greet one another, end closed quote. Thousands showed up to celebrate Cinco de Mayo and the return of another favorite yearly event after a 2-year pandemic pause. Attendance was down compared to the tens of thousands who attended in previous years. Mariachi music and swirling dancers were a staple of the parade and festival. This was Arely Aguirre's 4th time in the parade as a member of the Raíces Mexicanas de Detroit dance group. Aguirre, a high schooler at Cesar Chavez Academy in Detroit, said she was nervous at the start with so many people watching. However, the nerves faded away once she heard the crowd cheer for the dancers. She loves dancing with the group, quote, because it's nice knowing that you can celebrate your roots while doing something fun, and closed quote. Onlookers and parade marchers wandered over to the Cultural and Music Festival at Plaza del Sol after the parade ended at West Grand Boulevard. For several hours, dance troupes performed to a crowd of several hundred. Food trucks and vendor booths were scattered across the lawn. Beatriz Chavez was selling traditional handmade Mexican clothing at her booth, demonstrating the different ways to style a rebozo, a shawl worn by Mexican women for multiple purposes like carrying a baby or protecting from the sun. She spoke of the renewed interest in Detroit's younger Latina community in learning more about Mexican attire. Quote, the idea is to promote the use of rebozos because it's like a part of the Mexican culture, Chavez said, continuing on, saying, quote, the new generations know the symbol and how to use it. It's like the culture is still there no matter where you are, and closed quote. It's local businesses like that of Chavez, whose shop is called Fleur de Tuna, that Southwest Detroit Business Association, or SDBA, aims to help. As Southwest Detroit has grown in population over recent years, SDBA has helped more small businesses take off. Representative Jennifer Garnica of Detroit said not only has the area grown, but has also grown more diverse with Middle Eastern and Vietnamese restaurants opening in the area. Quote, it's been a great culture shock when people come down here to know it's not just Hispanic, but there's a lot of Middle Eastern and a lot of other places. So we are very excited to welcome them, and close quote from Garnica. Juan Gutierrez of Detroit, also with the SDBA, said the parade and festival were a great way for community members of all ages to come together and build a coalition of support. Quote, everyone is really excited to come out and remember the DNA of Southwest Detroit, Gutierrez said, continuing on, quote, we are still here. We are still working, and closed quote. All those headlines on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those ever helpful links to accurate, up-to-date information on COVID-19 from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up next, we'll talk to Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, and then we'll be joined by Wendy Bice from the Society of Active Retirees. That's all up next. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
a rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. Learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also learn more information about all of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets that join us each and every day. civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now is therapist Carrie Krawiec from Birmingham Maple Clinic. We're back with us once again on the Megacast. Carrie, thank you for being with us today. Okay, Carrie is telling us she cannot hear us, so we'll just hold here for a brief moment. Again, civiccentertv.com/megacast. You can learn about our entire network of stations that join us every single day on the program, live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon for our live shows, also throughout the evenings and on the weekends all across our network of stations, including Civic Center TV and My Michigan TV, otherwise known as MyMy at mymytv.com. You can learn more about all the original Michigan programming from MyMy. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. We're going to try to work out this technical issue. Our apologies here. We'll return in just a moment. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you. Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation. Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you did. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners, working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is the source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll be able to find all of our programs and each interview on demand and learn more about our entire network of stations and all their other original programming outside of our 2-hour block that is the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacasts. Joining us now is therapist Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, back with us once again on the Megacast. Carrie, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you on. So, in the past weekend, country music star Naomi Judd had passed away, and her family announced that she had died as a result of complications of mental illness. For years, it had been known in the public that she had been suffering from a severe form of depression. Based on the details that you may know about Naomi Judd's struggle with depression in her case, and some of the commonalities that she may have with other individuals that are suffering from depression, especially severe depression. What are those health effects that can be residual from a mental health issue such as depression?
Sure. Well, so for depression, for one, has a number of both physiological and social and emotional side effects. So extreme sense of worthlessness, hopelessness, loss of interest in activities once enjoyed, fatigue, insomnia, tiredness, overeating, oversleeping, undereating, undersleeping, over drinking or self-medicating. I mean, there's so many possible things. I mean, I think mostly to people, especially right when it's so severe, that lack of pleasure, that lack of joy in anything, even things that once were joyful, can feel especially tragic, and the will to live feels further and further away.
And so as you're treating these symptoms, as you're working through these symptoms, either as a therapist or as patients are working through these symptoms with medication or a combination of both, how likely is it that somebody that is battling one of these different varieties of mental illnesses may not necessarily be able to recover or be able to come through and have that other side scenario where it's not taking so much of a toll on them, because I would presume that someone of Naomi Judd's status would be able to have access to all those kinds of treatments, but they don't necessarily work for everybody.
That's true, and there have been so many innovations in mental health and medical treatment that it is a very optimistic time. Not every depression is like, nor is every person's circumstances. And also, right, to have the open and honesty that you're on this path to discover what's best for you, and to have people who can help remain optimistic even when you yourself can't. But you have to be open about where you're at. And sometimes we talk about that kind of like smiling depression, where on the outside people seem more or less fine. So on the inside, they're really struggling by themselves. And as a result, people may not be continuing to encourage them to try new treatments, which can be overwhelming, disappointing, take a lot of time.
And so as a family member, as a friend, as someone else in this person's life, how do you suggest that they go about recognizing the signs that someone may be suffering from a mental illness, such as depression or any other form of mental illness, and then address that with that person?
Sure. I actually saw this morning Bill Gates was on news programs talking about the pandemic and how we need to be prepared now for the next pandemic. But everybody's so bogged down with just fatigue about it. It's such a hard time to think about that way. And I thought, what a beautiful analogy for also families dealing with a loved one or a member of their household who has mental illness. Through these periods of crisis that are exceptionally stressful for everyone, the family members included. And then sometimes there's a period of relief where things seem fine or slightly back to normal. And it's during that time that perhaps people let their guard down. So really having plans that you talk about, being prepared. What are the signs and symptoms of the start of perhaps another, depressive episode, and to be talking about that throughout, and have strategies, just like Bill Gates said, maybe every household, every school has a fire plan, but do we all have a pandemic plan? And I would say, do we all have a mental health plan? Like, do we all have kind of what's the language we use? What do we see? What are our signs? Just like a smoke detector. And then what do we do when those signs start coming into play?
So you mentioned those feelings of worthlessness or loneliness that are often so symptomatic of something like depression. But for those that are quite literally in a situation in their life where they are alone, they're living alone, they don't really have a lot of interaction with other people, maybe they're homebound, maybe their friends and their family are no longer in the picture, what can they do to analyze whether or not they may be in need of some mental health assistance, or to go about the diagnosis process of a mental health issue if they believe that they may be suffering?
Sure. I mean, I think for those people, they are at the highest risk. They're already isolated socially, perhaps have limited resources. Communities are doing more and more to engage those people, to offer treatments that come to your home, to check in, to do welfare checks and wellness checks. But it really does take a village. If you suspect somebody in your area might be struggling, you can call your local police department and at least have someone swing by. Many are becoming more informed with mental health issues. Those people that are on their own and maybe not connected to a broader community, there are more resources now than ever in terms of being able to do online therapy, phone calls. Our state of Michigan has even radio commercials for where you can call to get free supportive treatment, to get connected. But yeah, it really does take at least a step enough to want to take that step. And I think even when it comes to suicidal thoughts or ideation, people often have what we call ambivalence or mixed feelings. There's maybe part of them that's certain they want to do it, and part of them that's not sure, part of them that wonders just maybe things might be okay, and to really to help people kind of coach those parts and create a little more balance instead of just listening to one side of the coin.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, joining us on the Megacast. More information and getting in contact with them by visiting birminghammaple.com. That's birminghammaple.com for more information on the clinic and to get in contact with the clinic if you or someone else in your life is in need of some of their services. And so, what sort of questions should we be asking if we are a parent or we're a relative or a friend of someone that we believe may be suffering, maybe having some of these mental health issues, or maybe going through a depressive episode, and we want to help them without necessarily being invasive or triggering or being just a little bit too aggressive to the point where they don't want to talk?
Sure. I mean, I know people feel like it's such a fine line, and especially if they experience, a pattern of, mental health crises, it feels very fragile, and there's a strong desire to not push any buttons to maybe accelerate anything. But I always do advise people to be bold, and if you suspect that someone's at risk of hurting or harming themselves, to ask them flat out, do you think about hurting or harming yourself or anybody else? If they answer yes, do you think about a plan? Have you thought of what you would do? If they say yes, you say, do you have that stuff in your home? Can you do this plan that you've thought of? Or, do you have access to that? And if they say yes, I mean, these are really like, everyone shows you that you're in a slightly higher degree of crisis than you might have been before. So then ultimately it is, we either need to, call emergency services, call 911, get an evaluation from a therapist or trained professional as immediately as possible. After having this conversation today, I'm thinking, just like I said about being prepared, I mean, we should perhaps be just more bold to have these conversations with everybody, whether we suspect mental illness or not, and just make it a commonplace conversation. So that it doesn't feel so foreign or touchy or testy to either the person having it or the person receiving it, that this is just very much a way that we would talk to one another.
So as a therapist, when these evaluations are being undergone between yourself or another professional and a patient, how do you go about those evaluations? Obviously, it's going to be different person to person. Everybody's going to have different needs in terms of their mental health and what their goals are and what their areas of needs are going to be. But where do those evaluations typically start to really get a full understanding, or as full of an understanding as you can, about what a person is going through before you're treating them either through therapy, certainly through medication, or both?
Sure. So, much like some of those questions I asked, a therapist would ask also those same questions, would also be evaluating, like you said, are there other people in the home? Are you by yourself? Are there firearms or other, lethal means in the home or that belong to you or somebody else? But yeah, there would be sort of a variety, like you said, so like emergency room is going to conduct a evaluation of one kind, an outpatient psychologist might do one of another, and that maybe there would be referrals back and forth as a result, depending on someone's, higher or lower level of need. Just like if you were to call like an 800 crisis number or something, a suicide prevention hotline, they would have their own series of assessment questions and then make referrals again to sort of higher or lower need based on the determinations.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic with us on the Megacast. More information and to get in contact with her and with others from the Birmingham Maple Clinic on their website, birminghammaple.com. That's birminghammaple.com for more information. And then after the evaluation, Carrie, where does treatment then go from there? Obviously, it has to be at the decision, or usually it would be at the decision of the patient whether to pursue that sort of therapy or other treatments that are being prescribed to them or being suggested for them. But typically, after an evaluation, how soon after do any of those treatments then begin?
In most cases, it would be fairly immediately, especially if there was a high level of need. A hospital might require that an appointment is made within 24, 72 hours from discharge, something so that to really keep the ball rolling and while motivation is there. I think there are a ton of opportunities are really based on preference and also like the intensity of the symptoms, but there are outpatient day treatment programs, there are inpatient programs, there are outpatient talk therapy programs, there's psychiatric, medications. So in most cases, especially for the most severe cases, it's a combination of medical treatments and talk therapy. But for some, it's really a matter of preference. So if you prefer medication and aren't ready to talk, or if you prefer to talk and aren't ready for medication, those are available to you too. An evaluation by a psychologist might help to get sort of a broader diagnostic profile that a therapist or a psychiatrist could use while picking their interventions. I also think there's a ton of resources such as family therapy or even individual therapy for family members to help identify their behaviors and roles in their loved one's mental illness, the ways in which they can intervene in positive ways, the ways in which maybe they're intervening in ways that are detrimental to the person, and in terms of enabling or not necessarily, paying attention to the things that are really dangerous. And therapists or even the other family members can help cope with the feelings of loss and grief, feeling out of control, just feeling anxious and overwhelmed for their loved one.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec, therapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, with us on the Megacast. Carrie, another couple minutes before we'll say goodbye. Anything else at this time that would be important for our audience to be considering in terms of their mental health, or in terms of just doing preliminary evaluation of the mental health of others and that they care about in their daily lives?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely, sometimes just talking about it, just getting familiar talking about it, not just to a trained professional, but to the general public, might help enumerate, right, how normal the feelings are and how also possible what treatments are, what's worked for other people, or, just being connected in periods. And we live in a high stress time, in our cultural, social world right now, and staying connected to other people is one of our biggest resources during times of stress, even though often during times of stress we push people away. So certainly generating opportunities to connect are good for both the giver and the receiver of that connection. So that would be the one thing I would leave everybody with.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us.
Great, thank you.
More information on the website. You can get in contact with them as well over at the Birmingham Maple Clinic by visiting their website, birminghammaple.com. That's birminghammaple.com. We're going to take a break on the Oakland County Megacast. On the other side, we'll be joined by Wendy Bice from the Society of Active Retirees. That's all up next. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
Joining us now is the interim executive director of SOAR, Wendy Bice. SOAR stands for the Society of Active Retirees. Wendy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, can you tell us about the Society of Active Retirees? What does your organization do? Who does it serve in our communities?
SOAR is recently went through a name change. We are now called SOAR Lifelong Learning. Mm-hmm. We are a institute for older adults of any age, 50 and better, we say, who want to continue to explore and discover and keep their minds active. So we offer 3 semesters a year of classes. In total, we offer somewhere around 125 classes a year. Each class is a one-off, so it's an hour to an hour and a half. It's a lecture style class, And about half of our classes are on Zoom right now, and half are in person in Farmington Hills at the Hawk Community Center.
And so, Wendy, can you talk about the importance of maintaining activity, particularly mental activity and social activity for retirees who are often seniors who are later on in their life, and so the aging process has taken a toll on their brains, on their memories, and when they're not necessarily activated on a daily basis or so consistently with work or with other necessary activities that are more of a practice in your working career life, that can take a toll. So talk about the importance of maintaining that activity and how your organization helps these retirees maintain their mental and physiological health through that activity.
So when SOAR was founded, actually it dates to the 1990s, older adults were retiring and looking for activity. And SOAR was founded on the principle that just because you're retired, you're not, you're no longer, you're still viable. You still have a chance to grow and learn and discover. But now people are not retiring at 65 necessarily. And even when they're retired, they're not, you're not sitting in a chair immobile. You're still viable, we hope, mentally and maybe physically, maybe not moving as fast, maybe your days are shorter, but you're still a person who has a lot to offer and can still take that time to grow and to learn and to discover and to meet new people. As empty nesters, our kids probably some are local, some are moved away. Some of us don't have grandkids yet. We're looking for social connections. So not only do these classes help stimulate thought and encourage discussion, but they're also really important for social connections, even over Zoom. We always have a question and answer period. We are back to a modified in-person schedule. We have small group activities. We'll start again up with field trips soon. But I think, as a person who is over age 60, or we say 55 or better, there's no way I'm done. I'm learning, I'm growing, and as are my friends and family members. So just because you hit a certain age doesn't mean you are no longer viable and no longer have a lot to contribute.
Has the COVID-19 pandemic played a factor in pushing that message and pushing that goal of your organization to maintain that activity for these seniors? Because I would imagine it even has a greater impact on those that are retired and maybe aren't working during the week or are consistently socializing during the week in person because they have to be in their homes to protect themselves from this virus over that 2-year period. How did the COVID-19 pandemic play into your organization's work to support these seniors, not only in their social life and keeping them active, but to maintain that goal of providing these activities and providing these outlets, albeit in a safe environment given the circumstances of the world?
I think COVID-19 shocked all of us into realizing how devastating isolation can be, and especially for older adults. So in our case, we were able to transition rather quickly. We did miss one of our semesters, but we transitioned quickly to Zoom, and we were able to get all of our members who wished back online and engaging with us through Zoom. So perhaps it was a husband and wife or 2 roommates who were isolated at home. Now they had kind of another outlet to feel a little bit more connected to the community. And so in SOAR's case, it really accelerated one of our goals, which was to use technology to reach older adults who are not necessarily physically or geographically able to attend our classes in person. So now with this this modified model we have of half of our classes on Zoom and the other half in person. And we're trying to record most of our classes and bring those to our members through YouTube. We really can offer anybody, anywhere, access to our content and our programs.
So as you mentioned, we're joined by Wendy Bice, the Interim Executive Director of the Society of Active Retirees Lifelong Learning Institute, joining us on the Megacast. More information can be found on their website, which is soarexplore.com. That is soarexplore.com for more information.
SOAR.
Yes, SOAR explore.com for more information and to get in contact with the organization. And so you mentioned the classes. You have a variety of different classes for people of all different interest levels or just for some continued development of life skills in retirement. Can you talk to us a little bit about what those classes are, and then go through the process of determining what those classes are going to be and how your organization develops them?
We have classes, we offer 3 semesters a year. Right now we are in the middle of our spring semester, and plans are, we almost have our fall semester set. So we would have classes ranging from art and culture, what is glass blowing, who's doing interesting work in glass or sculpture, to understanding the music of the 1950s, for example, all the way to history, to government, to current events. History is a big subject. We always have pretty good depth of options for those who love history, as well as a lot of local content. Our speakers are either active or retired professors from area universities, or active or retired professionals in their fields, or significant contributors to a certain genre. So, for example, some local historians who weren't historians in business, but have become so after their retirement, are often some of our best speakers. We, I can't remember the rest of your question. Do you want to know how someone can register?
Yeah, sure. How someone can register. Yeah.
So our website has a registration portal. We open registration usually leading into a new semester, and someone would register for a semester, and that person then becomes a member. We call them, we don't call our members students. And we are rolling out this fall a whole new registration model, so someone can become a member of SOAR and participate in some of our special events and our shared interest groups, which are very, very popular. And then they can also register for classes. So in the fall, we'll have a whole new kind of approach toward engaging with our members.
Are there any costs associated with taking these classes?
Yes, a semester is $100, and that entitles an individual to as many classes as they want. We average about 50 classes a semester. Our winter program, we call it, is actually a condensed model where we focus on one theme. So this past winter, we did 6 weeks just on the Industrial Revolution, but our spring and fall are more diverse with a whole variety of classes, and we average about 50 classes a term. We do have occasional special events through the year, and we have one coming up next week on May 6th, which is the SOAR mock trial. And that event is free and open to the public. We also have another event coming up with Jocelyn Benson that is free and open to the public as well.
We're joined by Wendy Bice, the Interim Executive Director of SOAR, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. SOAR can be found at SOARexplore.com. That's SOARexplore.com for more information. They are the Society of Active Retirees Lifelong Learning Institute, joining us on the Megacast today. So you mentioned earlier, among some of the classes are music of the 1950s, maybe one of them. You also have a book club and a film club as well. Can you tell us about those and how people can participate in those clubs?
Yeah, those are two of our shared interest groups. Shared interest groups are small group gatherings, currently all on Zoom, where the group members would read a book or watch a film or have a topic of discussion. And then they meet, the groups are usually between 15 and 20 people, and they meet with a moderator and discuss the book or the film or the topic of discussion. We have a women's issues group. We have a new group that's launching this summer called the Detective Novel. And obviously that will be all about detective novels. We have a new group that launched earlier this year called Great Decisions, where the group takes a look at some monumental decision and how it impacted our life. And they're getting ready for their second meeting this June.
We're joined by Wendy Bice, the Interim Executive Director of the Society of Active Retirees Lifelong Learning Institute, joining us on the Megacast. You mentioned also you have a mock trial coming up. That's going to be happening on Friday, May 6th at 1 p.m. It'll happen at the Hawk Community Center Auditorium located on 12 Mile Road in Farmington Hills. And it is a free event. Can you tell us about the mock trial and what people may be expecting when they see this free event on Friday, May 6th?
This is a semi-annual event. Obviously, we took a couple of years off, and we host, it's on a stage with a cast. The cast are all attorneys or judges. This year, we're exploring the question of, was Gerald Ford justified in pardoning Richard Nixon? We will have attorneys for the defense and a prosecuting attorney arguing whether Gerald Ford did the right thing in the name of peace and civility moving on, or should he have prosecuted Richard Nixon? The audience is the jury. And so after the case is presented, the audience will have a paper ballot and no chits, no electronic mishaps, but you'll fill out your paper ballot, vote guilty or not, and we will have a verdict at the end of the hour-and-a-half program. It's very popular. We have a very esteemed group of attorneys who are playing the parts. Jack Lessenberry is going to be Gerald Ford. So we're very excited. We think it is a good way to bring new friends into SOAR to participate again in a really interactive, social, but academic, thought-provoking event. And it's free.
Again, that free event, Friday, May 6th, 2022 at 1 p.m. That'll be at the Hawk Community Center Auditorium. That is located on 12 Mile Road in Farmington Hills. More information on soarexplore.com, SOAR Explore.com. We're joined by Wendy Bice, the Interim Executive Director of the Society of Active Retirees Lifelong Learning Institute, with us on the Megacast. Wendy, before we let you go, any other SOAR events coming up, or where can people get more information, or even sign up if they'd like to become a member for a semester or multiple semesters?
So as you've been graciously saying, soarexplore.com. Our phone number is 248-626-0296. We're on Facebook and we're on LinkedIn. So join us, learn, grow, meet new people, and don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask a question. That's what we're all about.
Wendy, thank you very much for joining us.
Tyler, thank you.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We may come from different organizations,
But we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
the leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Welcome to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find all of our full programs and each individual interview on demand, and learn more about all of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets, including My Michigan TV. Joining us now is the beat writer for the Detroit Red Wings with MLive Media Group. It's Ansar Khan back with us again on the Megacast. Ansar, thank you for being with us.
Glad to be with you.
Appreciate having you on. So in terms of the Red Wings, still very much in the thick of the rebuild, but a lot more promising of a result this season than we've seen in the past. The young guys on the team producing on a higher level. Certainly the rookies in Sider and Lucas Raymond were excellent this season. Dylan Larkin had a nice comeback season. All in all, ended the season at 32-24. So 32-24-10 to finish with 74 points for 12th place in the Eastern Conference. For much of the season, for a large part of the earlier portion of the season, they were right on the cusp of a playoff spot. And so as we continue through this rebuild, in your forecast, and in the front office's forecast too, as they're analyzing where to take this rebuild, how far away do they really think they are from contending for a playoff spot and being at that point where this team is ready to do some damage in the Eastern Conference?
I would say as far as contending for a playoff spot, maybe 2 years. I think it's unrealistic to think they finished, I believe, 26 points out of the last playoff spot this year in very tough Eastern Conference. To think that they can make up that much ground in just 1 year and reach the playoffs next year is just not realistic, regardless of what happens in the offseason. So I think they're looking at, I think ideally they would like to obviously take a step next year and finish right around 500. I think that would be would show progress. But as far as really competing for a playoff spot, I think you're looking at 2 years down the road.
Yeah, and they're really, as you said, they are really looking to take that next step in this rebuild and really surge forward with the talent that they have now, which is a very young team. With the leadership in Dylan Larkin, their captain, with these younger guys like Bertuzzi, who's a veteran but still on the younger side, and certainly rookies like Mart Sider and Lucas Raymond, who had very productive seasons, and Nedeljkovic also a productive season as a goaltender for the Red Wings too. And so with that being the case, and them really wanting to surge forward and continue on, make that next step, that brings us to the decision recently for the Red Wings to relieve Jeff Blashill of his duties as head coach. They're not going to retain his contract any further. and offer him a new contract. They want to move on, bring in some new leadership. And this has been something that's been of question of the Red Wings for years, whether or not they should be continuing on with Jeff Blashill. Many in the fan community and in the analyst community over the past several years have, year after year, been talking about it's time to get rid of Jeff Blashill. Maybe it's time to move on to somebody else. Now the Red Wings are making that decision. From the front office's standpoint, from your conversations with those decision makers leading the Detroit Red Wings organization, what ultimately was that final decision maker for them, or that final factor that went into saying Jeff Blashill's not quite the guy to bring this team where it needs to go in this rebuild any further?
It was how the things unfolded over the final 2 months of the season. They were going along, pretty nicely for considering what they were, right around 500. I think right mid-February, even late February, they were at 500. At one point, they were like 5 or 6 points out of the last playoff spot. That was a little bit deceiving because the team that they were chasing, Boston, had 5 games in hand. So I don't think they were ever seriously contending for a playoff spot. But just to be in that conversation was a step up and was showing progress. And they knew that it was going to be tough the final 2 months of the season because the schedule was much tougher. They played a lot of strong teams, especially a lot of strong Eastern teams. So they knew it was going to be difficult to maintain that 500 pace. But the problem was in the way that they lost some of those games. They were getting blown out in quite a few games. They just had a look of just like they didn't know what hit them some nights, and looked like they stopped trying. The compete level just wasn't the same. That ultimately was the biggest thing in leading to the decision to fire Blashill, was the team just was not competing hard enough on a regular basis over those final 2 months. And as a result, the goals against just ballooned. And that was just unacceptable to have them finish second from last in the league in goals against.
We're joined by Ansar Khan, Red Wings beat writer for MLive Media Group. You can read his articles on their website, mlive.com/Red Wings. That's mlive.com to read all of Ansar's articles as the Red Wings go through their offseason and into a very important search for their next head coach after deciding not to retain the services of now former head coach Jeff Blashill as the head coach of the Red Wings. And so now here comes a big question for the front office as they are approaching the coaching search, as they're approaching the continuation of this rebuild, thinking, as you said, maybe 2 years away from playoff contention and a few more years after that away from strong contention of the entire conference, possibly for a championship overall in the Stanley Cup Finals, and so on and so forth. So there's that question. Are you taking that next stepping stone with your head coaching position, or are you going for that guy that's going to be with you for a sustained period of time and eventually, you would presume, be your championship winning coach? What are the Red Wings looking for as they look to replace Jeff Blashill, avoid some of the similar pitfalls of having a younger coach that's used to developing players and bring in that guy that can take this young talent to its next level, but also lead a team that sooner or later will be competing?
Yeah, as Steve Yzerman addressed it yesterday, he said he's very open-minded as far as the qualities he's looking for in a coach. He's not going to narrow himself down into whether it has to be a coach with NHL experience, with head coaching experience from the NHL, an NHL assistant. It could be an NHL assistant. It could be an AHL coach. It could be a guy from Europe. He certainly didn't rule that out. Whatever he does, my feeling is that the next coach is going to be somebody that's more demanding, more hard driving. And that's not to say that Jeff Blashill wasn't, but Jeff Blashill was very popular, a very well-liked person, a very well-liked throughout the organization. A good person, and that's not to say that the next guy has to be a bad person by any stretch, but I think they're looking for a more abrasiveness, a taskmaster type. When you look at the history, and then this is kind of how it goes with coaching changes. when a team replaces a coach, they don't want to bring in a similar type of personality, a similar type of coach. They almost kind of want to bring in like the opposite type of coach. And that's what this team has done over the years. When you look, they went from a sort of a nice guy in Brian Murray to an absolutely tyrannical Scotty Bowman. And then when he retired, brought in a nice type guy, a player's coach, and Dave Lewis. That didn't work. They replaced him after 2 seasons with Mike Babcock, a very hard driving, demanding coach. And then back to Jeff Blashill, more on the, on the nicer kind of side, players type coach. So they've kind of alternated, and I think it's time, and I think the organization feels it's time to get somebody who's really going to push these players and going to be more demanding of them.
And do you think that kind of coaching works in today's NHL, especially with the younger guys? We've seen in other sports too that those older school philosophies, you think of some of those harder-nosed coaches in the hockey side, it's guys like Scotty Bowman, guys like Mike Babcock. Does that still work in today's NHL with the youth in this league that's going to be the bulk of this Red Wings team, or could that be something that could potentially be a poison for this organization in its current stage in the rebuild?
Well, it definitely could be dangerous, could be a poison. It could set them back, and that's something that Yzerman certainly has to weigh. You can't get somebody who's just going to be way over the top, like pretty much like Babcock was toward the end there in his treatment of some players like Johan Franzen. And then when he went to Toronto, it was just an absolute mess, the way he handled Mitch Marner. Certainly they don't want that to blow up. They don't want somebody quite like that. But they do, I think, want somebody who's just, I would say, a step or two up in that regard from Blashill. But yeah, it's certainly, like you said, somebody who's just over the top in today's NHL. I don't think that would fly.
We're joined by Ansar Khan. He's the Red Wings beat writer at MLive.com. More information, of course, on MLive.com. You can read his articles by clicking through their sports section and selecting Red Wings as they go through their coaching search, go through another offseason in this rebuild, and approach next season hoping to continue to move forward with the progress they made in this season. 32-24-10, their final record, 74 points, and 12th place in the Eastern Conference, but great production from their young guys. And so as we continue to talk about the importance of this coaching search, Ansar, it's only been a couple of days since they announced the relieving of Jeff Blashill after 7 seasons at the helm. But are there any guys out there now that either you know of are on a short list, or you think will be on a short list or could be on a short list for this Red Wings coaching search going forward?
I think it's wide open. I think there's quite a few names out there. Certainly, when you think of the rising assistant coaches, one of Yzerman's teammates, Lane Lambert, who's been a longtime assistant under Barry Trotz for 3 different teams, he'll certainly be a candidate. I believe he's in his late 50s. Hasn't gotten an NHL head coaching job yet, but he's certainly due, and really the time's kind of running out at that age. There's a guy, the wild card in it is former Swedish national coach, Rickard Gronborg. Obviously with the Red Wings and their ties to Sweden, the number of players that they've had and that they currently have in their system from Sweden. Plus he's pretty much coached almost every prominent Swedish player through the years, including Nicklas Lidstrom, who's a big supporter of his. He'll certainly be considered, but then you also have to consider that might be a bit, does Yzerman want to take that kind of a risk at this stage? Because there's only been 2 European-born coaches in the NHL. Both were more than 20 years ago, and neither had any much success. They didn't last long. So there is certainly a more of a risk there. And then there's a whole bunch of coaches, a lot of experienced coaches looking for work that have good NHL resumes, like Paul Maurice, John Tortorella, the guy who's fired, Dave Tippett, Alain Vignon. who was fired in Philadelphia. Even Joel Quenneville, who resigned in Florida due to the scandal in Chicago. So a lot of experienced NHL coaches there too. The thing is with them, it's like, do you want to hire a retread? Especially, some of those guys are getting up there in age too, or does Yzerman want to go with a younger guy? Now, if you base it on his history with Tampa Bay, he hired two coaches, Guy Boucher and John Cooper. Neither had any NHL experience. Both were young, and he hired them with the intent that they would be there for the long term. Boucher only lasted, I think, three years. And then, of course, he hired Cooper. He's had much success there for the long term, winning 2 cups there. My guess is he will go the route of a younger guy, somebody that he envisions can continue this rebuild, have, probably, I'm sure, a couple more lean seasons before really kind of taking it to the next level. That would be my guess. I think he would prefer a younger guy.
You can read all of Ansar's articles keeping up with the Red Wings coaching search and the Red Wings offseason coming up by visiting MLive's website at mlive.com/Red Wings. We're joined by Ansar Khan, Red Wings beat writer with MLive Media Group, on the Megacast. On the personnel side, there's a lot of young players on this team. We've mentioned the youth of this team being key to this rebuild. Very impressive players, but also some players that had a lot of promise but haven't quite lived up to that promise just yet. Guys like Phil Zadina, guys like Michael Rasmussen are a couple that come to mind. When you think about these kinds of players and the progress we would have expected from them based on what they were drafted, based on their evaluations as prospects before they made it onto the Red Wings team proper, where do the Red Wings see them in this rebuild? Is there a chance that these guys could be potentially moved for more prospects or more picks to really bolster this rebuild? Or do the Red Wings believe that guys like Zadina and Rasmussen are still very important parts of this rebuild?
Well, no, Rasmussen, they're very happy with him, actually. He finished the season strong, and he really took a significant step this year. He's definitely not going anywhere. He's a guy that they see as part of the future here. Big guy, versatile, can play center, wing, move up and down the lineup, play the net front role on the power play, even kill penalties. And they like the progress that he's shown. Not the same for Zadina. He was drafted 6th overall for a reason. Is because they expected to score goals. He's got a terrific shot, and that's his forte. And but it just hasn't worked. He's shown some flashes here and there, has not shown consistency. Now he's still young. I think he's 22, maybe 23, but he's still young, and so there's always a danger of giving up on a guy too soon and then having him develop in another organization. I question how much more patience they'll have with him, but also the problem there is that, given how he's played, his lack of production, there's just very little trade value there. You're not going to get much for him. If they were to trade him in the off season or in sometime into next season, chances are it would probably be a package deal involving other players. Straight up, I just don't think you're going to get good value for him. You might as well just keep him for a little longer and hope that he does take time and just need more time to develop. But yeah, definitely Rasmussen trending up. Zadina on the hot seat.
And then there's also a number of prospects who might be making it onto the big club next season that we could be seeing that could also be kind of those guys that come up and make an immediate impact on the team or have an impressive season on the team. They're talented individuals that have youth, but they also have a lot of experience in other professional leagues as well. What are some of the names that you're expecting to see on the Red Wings club next year that could be making an immediate impact as they try to really hit the gas on this rebuild?
Well, the two guys that come to mind first are Jonathan Berggren, very skilled winger who had a terrific first season in Grand Rapids this year, set the rookie scoring record for the Griffins. There was some thought that the Red Wings might want to bring him up late in the season to get a look at him. They kept him down with the Griffins because they were in the playoff chase. And plus just the way things were going in Detroit, the way the team was playing, I don't think they really wanted to bring him up and have him not do well and maybe lose a little bit of confidence there. So he definitely will compete for a job in training camp. They're not going to just hand him a roster spot. They're going to make him work for it. But I think that he will earn a roster spot in training camp next year. The other guy is their big defenseman, Simon Edvinsson, their top pick last year, 6th overall. He's had a terrific season in Sweden, and they're very excited. The front office is very excited and optimistic about him. Kind of in the mold of Moritz Seider as far as size and abilities. Although he said, Eisen even talked about him yesterday, he says he's a different type of player than Seider. And certainly you wouldn't want to put that kind of expectation on him, as Seider's probably going to win the Calder Trophy as a top rookie. You wouldn't want to put that kind of expectation on Edvinsson. And also, but I think he will compete for a job, but it's not a given that he's going to make the team. It's still very difficult for a young defenseman, I believe he's 19, to step into the NHL. Seider, you remember after he was drafted, he still needed a year, although he was probably ready, but they felt it was best for his development to play a year in Grand Rapids, and then COVID happened, and he ended up, he would have, if not for COVID, I think he would have made the Red Wings certainly that second year, but because of all the things happening around COVID, they ended up sending him to Sweden, where he excelled in that league, and then he was absolutely ready. Those 2 years just made him even more polished to come and step right into the NHL. So we'll see with Edvinsson whether his play certainly will dictate whether he makes the Red Wings roster or he could very well need some time in Grand Rapids.
Ansar, before we let you go, the Stanley Cup playoffs are underway. Who are your favorites in this year's playoff to potentially take the Stanley Cup this year?
That's a good question. This year, I really don't know. It's really wide open. I mean, you can make a case for as many as 10 teams. That's always tempting to say Tampa Bay because they won it the last 2 years, but it's hard to win 3 years in a row. I think the best team I've seen all year was Florida. I think they're just really stacked, explosive team. I would say Florida in the East would be my pick. In the West, I think Calgary is a team that I would watch out for. My prediction would be, and I would predict Florida to win it all over Calgary.
Ansar, thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
More hockey news, Red Wings updates, and of course everything you need to know about the Red Wings coaching search and their offseason will be found at mlive.com/Red Wings, where you can read all of Ansar Khan's articles. We're going to take a break on the Michigan Megacast. On the other side, we'll speak with Carrie Krawiec from Streetwise Incorporated about her work and her organization's work helping people in underserved communities find job opportunities all throughout the state of Michigan and across the U.S. That's up next. This is the Michigan Megacast.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Joining us now is the CEO of Streetwise Partners, Carrie Krawiec, whose mentorship organization is impacting underserved communities in major cities all across the country, including right here in Michigan. Carrie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, can you just introduce our audience to Streetwise Partners and the work that you do across the country, including right here in Michigan, to serve underserved communities?
Yeah, my pleasure. And so we are a national mentoring program that engages volunteers to help unemployed and underemployed adults from overlooked communities launch their careers. We know that it takes more than just hard skills in order to really be successful in the workplace. And so even if you've done everything stereotypically right, you've gone to college, city, community college, you've learned hard skills, got a certification, if you don't have advocates, if you don't have professional skills, industry knowledge, and social capital, it can be very, very difficult for you to join the job market, particularly if you're coming from an overlooked community.
And so, Carrie, if people want to engage in this program as mentors, how can they get involved? It is April at the time that we are doing this interview live. April is National Volunteer Month. Can you tell us about the types of volunteers, both mentors and non-mentors, that help support your organization's mission?
Yes, we are coming to the end of Global Volunteer Month, which is a wonderful time for individuals to get involved. And it really doesn't take a lot of time to impact somebody's life. So for Streetwise, we engage mentors to help with career development. So building resumes, LinkedIn profiles, learning interview skills through mock interview, building elevator pitches, doing speed networking events, learning how to make eye contact, speak about yourself with confidence, and really get prepared for the job acquisition process. But we have mentors who both do our 13-week program, which is intensive, where you meet one-on-one with your mentee. That's what we call our clients. Or we have hundreds of volunteers that we bring in that are one-time volunteers. So they may come in and give 2 hours to do a mock interview or an informational interview or participate in our speed networking events. And so really, it doesn't take a lot to be very impactful in somebody's life.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec, the Chief Executive Officer of Streetwise Partners, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. So if people want to become a mentor, what are the requirements and what are the steps that they need to take in order to join your organization and mentor some of these individuals that may be underemployed or unemployed?
Yeah, so we're looking for individuals who have been in the workforce for at least 2 years, who can commit the time, and who have some sort of expertise in some key job functions, which our mentees are looking to go into. So particularly IT, that's a huge sector that's available, where there's demand within the Detroit area for talent. You don't need a college education in order to join the IT sector, and we are really looking for individuals who come from that sector to help ensure that our mentees can be successful in job acquisition. We're looking for individuals who are coming from the healthcare sector, also who are within the administrative support job function as well. And then really just making sure that individuals are excited about helping people along their career journey. If you are interested in getting involved either as a mentor or a one-time volunteer, it's super easy. You can visit our website, streetwisepartners.org, ton of information on there. Right now our programs are virtual, so it's even easier. You can mentor somebody from your home, which is great. We're hoping to, at some point, have a hybrid program where we also have in-person experiences, because we believe that's important as well. But right now, you can volunteer from the comfort of your home.
Sherry, can you talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted your organization? You mentioned that the virtual programs, virtual mentoring has been one of those impacts. It continues to be one of those impacts as your organization looks to, in the future, transition to hybrid opportunities and some in-person opportunities coming back as well. But what are some other ways that the pandemic has impacted your organization's ability to serve the people that it serves, and how has your organization navigated those challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when COVID-19 hit, we really jumped into crisis mode to make sure that our mentees had the information they needed about how the job market was really changing minute by minute. How do they navigate the virtual world that kind of came onto us really, really quickly? And then we were able to shift our in-person programming into a virtual format pretty quickly. So we were able to continue to serve our clients in a significant way. We also saw a couple of things happening. We saw an intense sort of an overwhelming demand for volunteerism, because I think people wanted to be part of the solution, particularly if they were lucky enough to sort of maintain their jobs and maintain their economic situation. We saw companies really doubling down on their commitment to economic equity, particularly after George Floyd's murder as well. And so that was a really sort of wonderful moment as we look at the workforce development sort of sector. And for us, we were able to really reach more individuals who might have struggled with transportation or childcare issues, because the ease of participating in program virtually really allowed them to get involved. We did see a real significant digital divide. So individuals who lacked hardware, lacked good internet service, that was a real barrier. And we actually helped many of our participants secure the kind of technology that they needed in order to participate in the program.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec, the Chief Executive Officer of Streetwise Partners, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, streetwisepartners.org. That's streetwisepartners.org. You can call their Michigan chapter by calling 313-209-3341. That's 313-209-3341 for more information, or email info@streetwisepartners.org. Sherry, as we continue to talk about the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on your organization, it's also had a major impact on the job market too. It seemed like before the pandemic there was a bit of a struggle to find those openings and in the job market, and then stark competition for each of those positions. Now it seems like businesses are really struggling themselves to find people to fulfill these positions and fill all of these open positions, and even reorganizing their companies and their business models in order to adapt to that condition of the current job market. How has the current job market status, with all these open jobs in all these different sectors of the economy, how has that impacted the mentors in your organization, but also those mentees in their job searches?
I actually think it's been really positive for our mentees. And what I will say is, a lot of people talk about a real talent drought, and I would say there's talent there. I think a lot of companies have a pipeline challenge where they're continuing to go to the same wells for talent and they're not getting different results. And so I would say programs like ours have an incredible pool of diverse, capable talent. And we're now educating companies that they need to look beyond their traditional sources in order to really identify people to fill their open roles. And so, I think it's an employee market right now, which is great. And so we're actually also empowering our mentees to be bold in terms of what they're asking for, and aiming high with their salaries and making sure that they're compensated in the ways that they should be.
So if somebody is in need of the services of Streetwise Partners, or maybe in need of some help and assistance in their job search through a company like yours or an organization like yours, how can they go about getting that help? And then how long is that process before they inquire to where they're able to start getting that help and really amping up their job search?
Yes, so absolutely reach out to us. We have a very welcoming process where we meet with every individual who is looking for support. We have an application process. We do an interview to really understand what are the needs and challenges, do they fit with our program, but also how can we be most helpful. For those who are accepted into the program, it is a 1-year mentoring program broken up into 2 phases. Phase 1 is our 13-week core intensive, where each individual is matched with up to 2 mentors. So it's just double the network, double the access. And the mentors and mentees meet once a week for 2 hours in the evening. So it could be a Tuesday night from 6:30 to 8:30, as I said, virtual. So we're Zoom experts. So you meet with your mentors on Zoom in a cohort. So picture 25 mentees and 50 mentors together in Zoom, working as a group, networking, but also really focusing on each of our mentees' needs. And then we walk them through a curriculum. So week 1 is building the career map. Week 2 is building the resume. Week 3 is building the LinkedIn profile, and on and on. So it's very, very focused on building the career skills that they need. At the end of 13 weeks, we then ask our mentees and mentors to stay together for another 9 months. So at this point, it's all focused on job acquisition, job retention. Are you sending out your resumes? Did you get a job? You hate your boss, don't quit, let's talk it through. So really all the support that they need from a mentor who's gonna not only help them with their career journey, but also hopefully open doors for them so that they can continue with economic mobility.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec, the Chief Executive Officer of Streetwise Partners, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, streetwisepartners.com. That is streetwisepartners, .org. Streetwisepartners.org is their website. Call their Michigan chapter 313-209-3341. That's 313-209-3341, or email info@streetwisepartners.org. And Carrie, throughout your program, you do have a great focus that you put on readiness for your mentees and being ready to enter that job market, to apply for the job, to being ready to interview very shortly, even after or at any point in the process of them looking for a job. So focusing on the readiness, can you share about one of the key points of that, which is developing having soft ties and having weak ties, and how that plays in to this idea of readiness when somebody is entering the job market or continuing their job search in the job market?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about not just having professional skills, but also having social capital. And so that means people around you that you can call on to support your career journey. And we also talk about the research which says you need both strong ties and weak ties. And so strong ties are individuals around you, mentors, parents, professors, teachers who are going to really follow you through your career journey, versus weak ties, which might be individuals who come into your life for short moments, but are also very pivotal. So somebody who maybe does an informational interview with you, or a mock interview, or who you maybe can call on for one particular skill or advice, but they're not going to be your sort of long-term mentors, and you actually need both. And so that's why social capital building is so important, particularly for people from overlooked communities who may just, because of where they were born or where they live, they just don't have access to individuals who can help them along their career journey.
We're joined by Carrie Krawiec, the Chief Executive Officer of Streetwise Partners, joining us on the Megacast. More information on the website, streetwisepartners.org. And so, Carrie, we have a few more minutes with you. Before we let you go, can you tell us some of the success stories from those that have gone through your program and then gone into the job market, maybe even acquired their dream job?
Yes. Oh, I have so many. Each year we serve 650 adults across New York, DC, and Michigan through the support of 2,500 volunteers. So it is an army of volunteers, and we really do depend on our volunteers to change the lives of our participants. happy to share that 70% of our graduates are employed within 1 year. Average salaries increased by 400%. So that right there, you can't get better than that. And really a job does change everything. It's not only a paycheck, but it's a sense of community, a sense of confidence, a sense of identity. And so we're just so proud of the impact that we as an organization are having and that our volunteers are having as well.
Sherry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all?
You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. Learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find all of our full programs on demand, as well as each individual interview, and learn more about all of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets that join us each and every day for the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacast. Our next guest is from one of 295 charities and nonprofits in the Metro Detroit area supported on the Shared Detroit platform. We're joined now by Courtney L. Todd, the Executive Director of the Brightmoor Artisans Collective, with us on the Michigan Megacast. Courtney, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, can you tell us about the collective and its history and who it serves in the community?
Absolutely. So we are in the Brightmoor community that's on the west side of Detroit, and our collective is just a whole bunch of neighbors sharing all of our information in a shared space. So we have so many legs of our nonprofit here. We have a creative space for our learners to come in and be enriched through music classes or crafting classes. We have a commercial kitchen space that is rentable to small business owners starting off. We call it our incubator kitchen because we can get you licensed and get your product out there. We have all kinds of education surrounding nutrition and food, including an education garden. And we also have a cafe that is led by our youth in our neighborhood, teaching them all kinds of responsibilities and leadership roles and allowing them an opportunity to fail and learn and grow.
We're joined by Courtney L. Todd, the Executive Director of the Brightmoor Artisans Collective, with us on the Megacast. And so your program consists of those from the Brightmoor community. Are there others that also join in on this collective and really help to bolster that community within a community that you've built through this organization?
Absolutely. We have help from all over the city. We have help even from stretching out as far as Auburn Hills, just a lot of engagement in the community. So we're not just focused on Brightmoor, but just building a better community, building a collective community that we can all come together and learn and grow from one another.
And we're joined again by Courtney L. Todd, Executive Director of the Brightmoor Artisans Collective, on the Megacast. More information on their website, brightmoorartisans.org. That's brightmoorartisans.org. Or you can go learn more on Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.org for more information. And so one of the many services that it's provided through this organization is its farmers market. Can you tell us when it is, how people can participate in the farmers market, both as consumers but even as vendors at the farmers market?
Absolutely. So our farmers market runs through our summer season. So it begins around mid-June this year, and it runs every Friday from 4 to 7. And we welcome all kinds of vendors, but we specifically have a lot of urban farmers who utilize our farmers market and are able to grow right here in our area, right here in our neighborhood, and sell their produce to the local community. We also have a ton of vendors who make jewelry, a lot of vendors who come in and are under the cottage food law. We also welcome all of those because under that law, you can bake at home and sell your goods in a farmer's market surrounding. So we absolutely welcome all vendors, and you can contact us through email or phone to get a hold of us to become a vendor.
And so, Courtney, you mentioned that the organization provides that safe, collective, collaborative space to work on in a number of different capacities, whether it be art or music or food, and it includes the community creation space. Can you talk about that space, where it is located, and how people in the Brightmoor community and other communities that want to join the collective can access this space?
Absolutely. So this space is usually reserved for all of our enrichment opportunities. So our music class is found there, our crafting class is found there, our quilting is all in that collective creation space. And so we welcome the community with all of their talents to just utilize that space to disperse their talents among the community. So we've had yoga instructors come in and utilize that space to teach yoga in the community. We've had piano, we've had violin instructors come in and just teach different skills, candle making we had there. So just different skill sets, different enrichment opportunities for the entire community. We focus on the youth, but parents are incredibly involved as well. So absolutely.
We're joined by Courtney Todd, the Executive Director of the Brightmoor Artisans Collective, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information about the organization by visiting brightmoorartisans.org. That's brightmoorartisans.org. You can also go to sharedetroit.org, click on their Find Nonprofits link at the top of their homepage, and explore both the Brightmoor Artisans Collective and 294 other charities and nonprofits in the Metro Detroit area, sharedetroit.org. Courtney, on site there also, one of your most heavily utilized and appreciated features at the Brightmoor Artisans Collective is your commercial kitchen. Can you tell us about that and how members of your organization are able to access that both for their own personal use, but also but also for marketing and even sale of their food in features such as your farmers market.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's exactly the pipeline that it is. We utilize this commercial kitchen space to be able to provide that space to be able to be licensed and insured, to be able to provide food for our community and just access, create that economic mobility for small food business owners or small farmers who need to come in and just process produce and get it bagged up to be able to be sold at our farmers market. We also provide storage here. We provide cold storage and dry storage to our renters so that they can be able to house all of their items that they need. This is their business space. This is their incubator space that they can fully use. It's their home away from home, and it is the beginning for most businesses. We've had several success stories where a couple of our renters are in stores in Myers. You can find our renters in Myers right now. So they're moving and grooving and growing as businesses inside of this incubator space.
Yeah, and it's providing that creative space and that collaborative space for these different individuals to have dreams, that have ideas, to turn those into reality and then turn them into viable businesses that support the community and bolster the community. And so it's a great opportunity for people in the Brightmoor community, but also those in surrounding areas, to join in collectively and have those opportunities to collaborate with other people in creative spaces and other ways as well in the local area. And so if people are interested in joining the collective and participating in some of its events, how can they go about doing so?
They can always visit us online at brightmoorartisans.org, and they can call me up at 313-437-1057 to get any information. I can always be emailed at brightmoorartisans@gmail.com, and that is my personal email, and you will get an answer from me.
We're joined by Courtney L. Todd, the Executive Director of the Brightmoor Artisans Collective, on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, brightmoorartisans.org. You can also find more information on Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.org by clicking on their Find a Nonprofit or Find Nonprofits link, searching Brightmoor Artisans Collective to learn more information about them. There's also 294 other charities and nonprofits in the Metro Detroit area that you can support through Share Detroit. Courtney, there's a number of different events also coming up through the Brightmoor Artisans Collective. Can you tell us about some of those exciting events coming up and how people can participate?
Absolutely. Well, outside of our farmers market that will be beginning soon, we also are starting our summer camp for ages 5 to 12. And through our summer camp, we'll be providing all kind of enrichment opportunities, including our agriculture science focus, where we will have the kids out there in the yard, in the garden with us. We'll be doing all sorts of experiments. We'll be going to forests, go to trail walks, and all kind of exciting activities for the summertime, all kind of enrichment, and just all kind of goodness surrounded about our summer camp. So that's our main event that's going on outside of our farmers market. That's happening every Fridays from 4 to 7.
Courtney, these great community opportunities require great community support. So at this time, what is the best way or best ways that individuals in the Brightmoor community area, in immediate surrounding areas, and all throughout Metro Detroit and across the state of Michigan can support this collective?
Well, the first way you can support us is by visiting our Share Detroit page. So on our Share Detroit page, we have several volunteer opportunities that anyone, individual as well as groups, can take part in. We also have a donate button on our website that you are welcome to donate to. But we are looking for hands in the garden. We're looking for hands in the camp. And again, just visit our Share Detroit page. I thank Share Detroit for allowing us this access to be able to mobilize us and get us out there even more. So yeah, absolutely. Visit our Share Detroit, visit our website to donate and volunteer.
Courtney, before we let you go in another couple minutes, anything else that we haven't discussed today about the Brightmoor Artisans Collective that you would like our audience to know, or that they should be keeping in mind or keeping a lookout for in the near future?
Well, I would like everyone to know that we are hiring, but we are also gearing up for our community cleanup. So this is not just at the center, but this is our neighborhood-wide cleanup. So we are gearing up to do that and go through our neighborhood. So if anybody wants to take part in that, they can always reach out to me through Brightmoor Artisans Collective and get connected to our bigger Brightmoor network to be able to really get involved and engaged in our community.
Courtney, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
More information on their website, brightmoorartisans.org. That's brightmoorartisans.org. Or go to sharedetroit.org, click on their Find Nonprofits link, and you can search Brightmoor Artisans Collective to learn more information about ways that you can support the organization, how you can donate, how you can get in contact with them, link to their website so you don't have to necessarily remember brightmoorartisans.org yourself, and also those volunteer opportunities that Courtney talked about, including a fundraising expert. They're looking for a farmer's market assistant manager. They're looking for summer camp counselors. They're going to need those very soon. They're running now through August 26th. And then garden instructor as well. There's so many opportunities, volunteer opportunities, upcoming events such as their farmers market that will occur in May. All that information is on their Share Detroit page. Just go to sharedetroit.org, click on Find Nonprofits, and search Brightmoor Artisans Collective. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Oakland County and the Michigan Megacast. We thank everyone for joining us on today's program, including Wendy Bice from the Society of Active Retirees, Carrie Krawiec from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, Ansar Khan, MLive Detroit Red Wings beat writer, Sherry Kroll from Streetwise Incorporated, and of course Courtney L. Todd, the Executive Director of the Brightmoor Artisans Collective. If you have just tuned in and you've missed the bulk of the program for today, you can find our full episode on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast sometime mid to late afternoon, where you'll also be able to find all of our interviews from today's program and all of our programs dating all the way back to March of 2020 by clicking on our Watch Full Interviews link at civiccentertv.com/megacast. In addition, on that page, we have all the information you need to know about our partnering stations all throughout Oakland County and across the state of Michigan. Direct links to their websites so that you can learn more about what they do in their local area and different local areas all throughout the state of Michigan. Find more of their other original programming and ways that you can support these great community television stations, community radio stations, and other outlets such as My Michigan TV that join us each and every day for the Michigan Megacast and for the Oakland County Megacast from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's all civiccentertv.com/megacast. Also, highly encourage you to regularly visit our coronavirus page. You go to civiccentertv.com, you click on coronavirus, or you type in civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. That takes you to our website, to a special page that has links right at the top to the Centers for Disease Control, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division's COVID-19 specific web pages, so that you don't have to go researching all throughout the internet for up-to-date and accurate information from experts on COVID-19. You can get that at multiple levels. If you need to learn more about COVID-19 at the state level, you go and click on the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, the MDHHS link. It takes you to their webpage. Same thing if you're in the Oakland County area, click on Oakland County, takes you to the Oakland County Health Division page. Or if you just want a broad scope of information from the experts that a lot of these other organizations are getting their info from, click on the CDC link. We also have our top stories making headlines across the Great Lakes state just below those links on our page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Big thank you to our crew that makes this program possible every single day. Technical Director Calvin Brown with me in our studio for the full 2-hour marathon. Also with us for the full 2 hours is Jared Clark, our Zoom producer at the office of My Michigan TV. Big thank you also to the king of television, Larry Nyland, our producer, who's also helping us both on and off the air today. Coming up next on My Michigan TV, it's Steve Lato Live, followed by Larry and Maddie Live. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m.